just get right to it. Final two, who's winning the national title?
You want the final two, final four? What do you want?
Give me the final two first, and then who's winning the national title?
Okay. Let's start with my number 2 team in the country, and it's Clemson. And when I look at Clemson, they're one of the more veteran teams in the country. I rank them number 2 in my experience chart. Cade Klubnik back at QB after having 36 touchdowns or 6 interceptions last year. He's got my number 2 receiving core to throw to, my number 2 offensive line. And defensively, they actually gave up 374 yards per game last year, which is highly unusual for Clemson. They bring in Tom Allen. He's got a plethora of NFL talent there. I'm talking about DeMonte Capehart, Peter Woods, TJ Parker on the D-line. All guys would be probably first or second round draft picks. Linebacking core, Woodaz and Brown in the secondary. Terrell and Barnes, they are loaded defensively. So I think they'll be much improved on that side of the ball. So I think the most potent offense in the country, a top 10 defense. And when I play out the schedule, I've got them favored in all 12 games. I think Clemson's a legitimate threat. But I went with Penn State to win it all this year. And they've got what Michigan and Ohio State had going for them the last 2 years. And that's a lot of players turned down the NFL, opted to return for their senior season. They're a homegrown team. Majority of their players recruited there as freshmen. They're now seniors. They've got players up front like Denai Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant on the D-line, Fisher and Rojas at linebacker. You look at the offense. I mean, Drew Aller is back at QB after last year having a 24-8 ratio. They've got my number 1 set of running backs in the country, led by Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. They've got my number 1 offensive line in the country. And the one weakness they probably had was a wide receiver last year, but they addressed that in the portal. They bring in Kyron Hudson from USC, Trevor Pena from Syracuse, Devontae Ross from Troy. I think when you look at Penn State, they've got the makings of a legitimate national champ this year.
All right, Phil. So let me get back to you. And I was going to ask you this because I was looking through the magazine this morning. Of course, go to philsteele.com. You can still get a physical copy besides a digital copy. If you want the digital access, you get that immediately. Obviously, got to wait for the physical. But I was looking at those ratings and those different things. And one of my questions, and you've already answered it, is Clemson back this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And you go back 2 years ago, Cade Klubnik at quarterback only had a 19-9 ratio, and people were questioning, is Cade Klubnik the quarterback for the future? But that year, he actually lost his top 3 receivers prior to the season, or basically by week 2, and so was a depleted receiving core. Last year, with those injured players back, plus 2 talented true freshmen, a 36-6 ratio. And here's the thing about Clemson and Penn State this year: they're both what I call homegrown teams. They recruited freshmen; they're now seniors. They have that team atmosphere, and I think those teams are going to have great success this year. You look at last year. Clemson won the ACC. Iowa State was in the Big 12 title game. Those are homegrown teams. And same thing with Army and Navy. Don't use the transfer portal, but both had unexpected success last year. I think there's something to be said for the teams that are not bringing in 60, 70 new players every year.
So then finally, let's just go over it one more time. Obviously, Penn State got into the college football playoff, just missed the finals last year. How are they going to fare against, in your opinion, the Ohio States and the Michigans of the world in that conference this year?
I think they set up extremely well, Chris. You take a look at years past, I would have to say, like last year, for example, there's no doubt Ohio State had the most talent of any team in the country. They were a homegrown team. They were senior laden. They had a lot of players turn down the NFL to return to get their gold pants, which they get for beating Michigan. And even that team, which was absolutely loaded, they lost 2 games last year. They lost at Oregon. They, of course, lost to Michigan once again. Didn't even win the Big Ten title last year. This year, Ohio State loses 14 NFL draft picks. Meanwhile, Penn State loses 5. And even in last year's game, it was close, right down to the wire. Ohio State only won that thing by 7. The previous year at home, Ohio State only won by 8. So each year, Penn State's been playing them close. I think this year, Penn State actually has more talent and more experience than does Ohio State, and that's why I think they finally break through.